Welcome everyone to Thriving Divorce and Separation, a conscious hub for all those looking to navigate through the process of separation and divorce in a way that's different, in a way that's more conscious, collaborative, and compassionate, in a way that really honors the ongoing well-being of all members of a separating family as a whole, and ultimately in a way that supports you to create a thriving landscape for the evolution of your family in its new form, because I truly believe that divorce doesn't have to mean destruction and separate doesn't have to mean broken. In the space of separation and divorce, you can create a new, evolved, thriving family dynamic. And what that looks like for you may look like something different to somebody else, but I do believe it's possible. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cara Ockenden. I am a former Australian family lawyer, converted to a collaborative family law facilitator and coach now. We're training in conscious uncoupling as well. I love supporting individuals and couples to move through the process of separation from contemplation phase all the way through to final agreements and beyond, particularly for those who may be co-parenting, right? And ultimately, my key passion is really about supporting families so that the children in the space are really honoured, okay? And that we're seeing structures created for them that honours their well-being as well as parental well-being throughout the process. So with that said, as I do bring a conscious and collaborative approach to the way that I support people through separation, I love having conversations with real people. Okay, real professionals, real everyday people who are supporting individuals through separation and divorce or have been through it themselves and have some really, great takeaways about their experience and how you might do it a little bit different to others in a way that might support you and your family to create something different, okay, that helps you thrive with your unique needs and circumstances. Again, bearing in mind that everyone's situation is unique and what serves you and your family may not serve the next, and nor may it be appropriate. I myself have also moved through my own conscious uncoupling, and I am supporting and fostering a thriving bi-nuclear family dynamic, right? And I just wish to convey that, the fact that this is what we have created for our family does not mean that that's what's right for you. So it really is about, trying on and getting clear on what your options are, what's available for you, and creating what's right for you and your family. So with that said, today we're going to be speaking with another real person who's been through separation and divorce and has created something different through the ashes of that. So, without further ado, I'm going to be introducing you to Tim Morris today. Tim is a single dad now, having moved through his own separation and divorce. He has created this phenomenal initiative called Hugs Over Handshakes, supporting families to really reconnect and regenerate and rebuild presence in their relationships with their children, both for families who may still be, in a family unit together, a ordinary nuclear family, and also those who may be in a co-parenting arrangement or are single parents as well. And I just think it's just a phenomenal initiative to be bringing into the space to be able to support individuals to rebuild the relationship with children. It can be particularly powerful for those who may be moving through the separation and divorce landscape where some of those relationships can become a little bit destabilized in the process. And that's actually, quite common and normal for that to occur in the space, given what everyone's going through, that destabilization. So with that said, I'm very excited to be welcoming you all today to Tim Morris. So good morning, Tim. How are you this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. A little flat this morning, but I'm working through that.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here despite feeling flat. I'm grateful that you showed up for us.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, to begin with, I'd just like to know a little bit about you, a little bit about your background. I mean, I know a little bit about you, but the audience does not. So, I'd like you to share, if that's okay, a bit about you, your background, and yeah, what you do.
Yeah. Um, so I originally was an electrician, had my own company, ran that for nearly 20 years, got completely burnt out. So I've sold that and gone into helping families reconnect because through my journey of being self-employed and under pressure with work, business, and that was so much focus. I actually lost connection with my kids
Mm,
myself. And it's been quite a journey sort of building that back. And now we've got the best relationship we've ever had. And, I've learnt lots of tools along the way, and I want to give that back to other people and build connection back in other people's families.
Yeah, that's a really, powerful mission that you have there because I think in society, in the current ways or the current state of things, that disconnect is so very prevalent, like with screen time, being stuck indoors, working from home as well. Like we're working 24/7 for a lot of people, and that is really significantly disconnecting, especially for our little ones who thrive on that connection, that one-to-one time.
Yeah, probably the one thing I realized as well, because I was still present in the home a lot. Like I didn't
Mm,
work massive hours, but when I was home, my mind was elsewhere.
mm,
And yeah, I just wasn't aware of what was going on around me. And, little fights would break out because I just wasn't across it. I was busy, emailing someone or on the phone to a customer or employee. And yeah, it's presence, which,
mm.
gets spoken about a lot. But when you're truly present, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And are you referring to your relationship there in terms of conflict and a lack of presence in there in your previous relationship?
That was the same, yeah,
Mm,
with both my wife and my kids. Yeah, I wasn't present with anyone.
mm,
Um, and ultimately it led to the breakdown of my marriage. Um, and that got very close to getting nasty. Well, it did probably get nasty.
mm.
But we turned it around with the help of a few people, yourself included.
Yes, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Yes, so yeah, if you can tell me a little bit about that. So we know each other through you having engaged in my Cycle Breakers program, for couples and individuals, but you yourself elected to do it as on a solo journey on your own, not with your partner. That's, within your valid choice. Some others did it in partnership, and yeah, I'd love you to, if you're willing to do so, share a little bit about that and how that may have assisted you with your marriage breakdown.
Yeah, so we split on fairly good terms. We both sort of it was mutual. We both could see that, the writing was on the wall and we just weren't helping each other the way we needed. And just as time went on, there was quite a few things that were causing conflict. And we got into some real big, nasty fights, and it was not good for anyone. Um, and probably the biggest issue we had, it was kind of financial, but it wasn't. It was around our business
Mm.
that we owned and operated, and um, I'd agreed to sell it to my ex-wife.
Oh, we've got you frozen there.
I'll give you this much, and I'm like, yeah. I ended up just saying yes, but I wasn't happy about it, and so underlying there was a lot of resentment there, and that was coming out in the way we were, I guess, dealing with each other. And what changed was one conversation, which I came to it during your program. It's probably, yeah, a single moment that changed our complete relationship. Um, and I just had an open, honest conversation about how I was feeling.
Mm.
And then I invited her to do the same. And we came to an agreement that we were both very happy with. And yeah, from that point moving forward, and it wasn't really about the money, it was about the value, as
Mm.
in, I guess, my value within the business and I guess my life's work and what that meant. And she wasn't undervaluing it because she didn't think it was worth that. It was only because she couldn't afford it. And once we
Mm.
had this conversation, we worked out an arrangement that we're both happy with. And now our relationship is amazing. We're back to being friends again because we were friends 10 years before we got together. And yeah, we're probably more a family now than we had been in the last 10 years.
That's really amazing. And yeah, that was one of the, I think, shares that you presented during the program, I think, to everyone, that everyone was really just so celebrating with you to have been able to come to achieve. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful outcome for you. And And it really speaks to the power of, getting to the deeper core issues, right? And actually being that vulnerability piece that I spoke to you quite a bit about throughout the program, being, authentic and vulnerable, what's truly going on, as opposed to the guarded way that we tend to show up in these spaces. And just being able to share that and be received as well, for both of you. And when it comes to, I suppose, what you're speaking into there is, as I'm perceiving it from, if I'm bringing it a little bit more of a legal professional hat to it, is that you're speaking to your contributions, right? And that you want to be seen and recognized for your contributions. And where we see so much, I think, conflict and disparity in people when they separate is particularly, I mean, often already pre-existing in the relationship, there's a lack of appreciation for individuals, each party's contributions, but that gets exacerbated throughout the piece. And people, and then that space, people really want to be seen and heard even more in that space because of the nature of the breakdown, as we explored, throughout the program, and how it's affecting your cognition and your hormones and all these things. And we tend to really get that guarded up. And, we want our value to be seen in the process. And that's where the power of having those more conscious and collaborative conversations can really open that door to allow that. And then it allows things to soften. And like you say, solutions to be born that you probably didn't see before, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would be on the table because there was just, so much angst between the two of us. But it really brought me to the point of how important communication is.
Mm,
And one other thing that was really big that I got from your program was looking at yourself and seeing where you're to blame in the situation. Because
mm,
quite often it's just, you push it all out. It's your fault, your fault, your fault. But if you look at yourself and just say, well, how have I contributed to this? And how could I do this better? It just changes the narrative.
yeah, 100%. And I fully agree with that statement. And even in my own personal experience, I mean, I've shared quite frequently about my own uncoupling and had a similar experience. And I see it in my clients time and time again. It is really difficult to engage in constructive and healthy and conscious communication if you're coming from a place of projection of blame and shame and placing full responsibility on the other party. I mean, most of us will have some, I suppose, cognitive idea that we have a part, but when the nervous system is activated and our emotions are activated, we can't we don't present that when we're having the conversation. We project from that pain, and that's where it's so important, I guess, as you say, to come from that space where you're more grounded, more regulated, more conscious, and also fully understanding and full awareness of your own part. And I don't like to say where you are to blame because, again, that's also self-shaming. But, it's still those feelings are very valid to process as well, because likewise, you don't want to be coming from a place of self-blame and shame, because that's also a disempowered state. So to process those as well. But yeah, I think that's a really powerful statement that you've also reflected upon there, or experience that, I think is you're not alone in, right? For people who have taken this, I suppose, this new approach to separation that a lot of people, struggle with, and just because they don't have the tools and resources. Um, I think something else that I found that was really, well, that I really admired you for throughout the process as well, was when we came in, because I know this conversation came quite early in the program for you. And at that point, I understand you had a lot going on with work, and you're at a point where you almost dropped out of the program because you thought, oh, this is a lot of work and time to invest in what we're doing here. But then, you had a realization that you were going to stick out for the program, and I really admired that. Would you like to speak a little bit around that?
Yeah, I guess like you said early on, I had this conversation and it just changed everything and I guess the animosity was gone. And it's like, as you said, I had heaps going on with work. I was doing big hours. Um, and I just thought, I've got what I needed from the program. I think I might just drop it. And I had a bit of a think about it, and I'm like, yeah, if I've got this big a breakthrough this early on, I'd be silly not to continue because what else is there? I might as well run it through. And there was so much more that I got. That was
Yeah.
obviously a pivotal moment, but yeah, there was lots. So the the blame and shame part that you talked about, that came after, and I
Mm,
actually use that to a degree every day with every situation that doesn't work perfectly, even if I think I'm 100% right, I still look at every situation and just go, how could have I done that better? How
Mm.
have I contributed to the way this went?
That's
So,
wow. I hadn't heard that one before, Tim. So I'm really, yeah,
no.
that's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And you could tell me as well a little bit. I recall you also sharing throughout the program about, how it sort of shifted some of your perspective with your children as well, and the way that you may have been engaging with them in parenting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the memory bank on this one because it's all rolling pretty well at the minute.
Yeah.
Um, um, I think it's really the same philosophies that you're taught when it comes to uncoupling. I've used them to help build my relationship with my kids, and
Mm,
it's the clear, honest communication,
mm,
um, understanding their perspective, because it's easy to understand someone else's perspective when you're not involved. You can be objective when there's, two people. It's like, oh yeah, I can see
true.
your view, I can see your view. But when you're involved, it's much harder to sort of on the other head. And yeah, so that's something that's been important with my relationship with my kids is understanding how they're feeling, validating what they're feeling, and
Mm.
then trying to work through it with them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's so true what you said there as well. How it's really easy when you're not in it to be objective, right? And I've just reminded me of this conversation I had in my collaborative practice training with all the facilitators, and how they're all saying, when we're at work and we're helping other people do this, it's so easy to stay objective. Although they still, they're still speaking to how you can still get triggered in that space, and we also have to manage our own triggers in that space. But when it comes to your own situation, it's very different. And in your own family dynamics, whether you're dealing with your partner or your children, right? Because children are very triggering. And any parent knows that children, they trigger you and test your patience. And so, yeah, I think it is the power is being able to bring it into those spaces where those stronger attachments are. And we've spoken to that as well in the base program that comes with cycle break and supporting post-separation conflict, how you get that understanding and how that those base attachments, the closest attachments, are where these triggers are most likely to play out, whether that's typically your romantic partner or your children, or when you're a child yourself, it's your parent, right? Child-parent relationship, and parents trigger children, parents trigger children get triggered by their parents get triggered by their children, right? Both. It's
Yeah.
like you see the little ones, you see how you trigger them, and it's like, oh, yes, okay, I'm hitting something there, and having to get down on their level sometimes, I think, and see their perspective, which sometimes is hard as parents as well. So it's just all learning and
Yeah,
growth.
well,
So,
one thing I use when I do get triggered, I actually use the breath work that you taught me.
mm,
So it doesn't happen as often these days, but um, yeah. So if I know I'm about to lose it, it's like, all right, I'm just going to stop, take some breaths, and I'll actually invite my kids to do the same. I'll just say, give me a minute, I'll take some breaths, and say, you can join me. Often they don't, but hopefully we get there.
I bet.
Um, but it just resets you and you just
Yeah.
start thinking properly again because, you know, I know when you're stressed, you're actually something like 50% dumber. Like you're
Yeah,
just,
it's something it's very hard to think clearly and to engage in a more wise and collaborative manner, certainly. And it's funny what you say about the breathing. I try and do that with my son as well, and he's definitely not on board. And I just remember one occasion in the car where I started to do the breaths, and he goes, "Don't talk, mummy, and don't even breathe." It's like he was so triggered. He needed complete silence. He didn't want to hear the breaths. I'm like, okay, I'll just do it quietly then.
they
But yeah, so they're funny little things, aren't they? But yeah, so thank you
are.
for sharing all of that. I really appreciate it. So I'd love to know a little bit more now about, what's brought you to, well, about your initiative, what's brought you there. I mean, I understand, the lack of presence with you've got two daughters, is that correct?
Correct. Yep. 9 and 12.
Yeah, yeah. So what brought you to, starting your new initiative, which I understand is still, quite in the evolution phase for you, and,
It is.
what's present there for you?
Yeah. So I guess coupled with the not being present and losing connection myself with my kids, it's really going back to my own childhood and what I wanted as a kid. And I remember both me and my wife said when we had kids, we're going to do it different to how our parents did
Mm,
it. Because, I grew up in an environment, I knew I was loved, but there wasn't outward showing of love. I wasn't encouraged. I wasn't hugged. I wasn't told I was loved. Um, and so we changed all those things when we had kids and we did that. But then going down the road of work, 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 chase the money because we think they want us to buy them things, but they don't want things, they just want our time. Um, so yeah, it's the generational trauma that I'm really wanting to try and break.
mm,
So even though I specifically said I'm not going to do it the same as my parents, ultimately I kind of did.
mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize that for a long time.
Yeah. And in a different way, I do believe that, I've seen this one, it's like this one, like cartoon imagery, like story where it shows, the generational trauma in action and how, first it starts up here, but then it gets a little layer less and a little layer less and a little layer less. So there are shifts and, obviously there's always room for improvement, but it's also powerful to recognize, where we have made changes and grown and done it differently as well. But yeah, I'm very passionate about the generational trauma as well. That's why my program is called Cycle Breakers, right? It's about
Yeah, yeah,
doing the
yeah.
divorce and separation differently to what, times gone by have, because the generational impact of those unhealthy divorces and high conflict divorces are so profound on children, in terms of the impacts that they have on them and then their future relationships. So yeah, I really admire what you're doing in terms of bringing that, difference to the next generation and the generations thereafter in terms of how we're doing things. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's no blame in my part towards my parents because they
Mm,
did a good job. They did the best they knew how. And they got
absolutely.
that from their parents. My mum, her dad's a World War II vet. So God knows what
Yeah.
he went through. And, he was very closed off, not emotional. And so that trickled down.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's just yeah, there's no blame there. It's just could be a lot better.
Yeah, look, I'm very much the same. I'm sure you've heard me say that time and time again as well. My father's, we've got the World War II vet in there too, as well, and that trauma that's been trickled down from that. There's very, very young men who were exposed to horrific things and they didn't have skills capacity to deal with that. And then likewise, if you think about, I don't know about my parents, I'm a child of the 80s, and in those times, the tools and resources that we have now in order to be able to learn and grow and evolve differently weren't available then. Like going to a
100%.
psychologist wasn't really available back then. That was considered, oh, you don't go back there, you don't go to see a psychologist unless you're crazy. Right. And now it's
Yeah.
just like understood that no, you just do that as part of your mental health and well-being. It's normal. And having that more readily available as well is just made, I think, a huge difference into the way that we do things and the access to information with the internet, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, the internet has its flaws in terms of screen time and the like, but it also has its powerful benefits like this, being able to have, you're in South Australia, I'm in Brisbane, and we can have this conversation and share, these profound awakenings and experiences and I suppose life missions. So, on that note,
Yeah, 100%.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what is your ethos? What is your mission? What is your bigger picture?
Yeah, well, so at the moment, I'm just working with families one on one in person. I plan on growing that. I've got a property in the Riverland and I want to run retreats, multi
Hmm.
families at a time, over a weekend. And hopefully, well, the plan is I'm going to take it on the road because
Mm.
I've been involved in quite a few workshops and there's a lot of stuff they need and it's not easy for them to move around. Whereas what I do, I could do anywhere. I don't need much stuff. So I'd love to just roll around the country, um, accessing as many families as I can and yeah, changing this generational trauma that a lot of people don't even realize they have.
Mm.
So
Yes. That's
yeah,
a fair
so
point
for
as well.
me, it's yeah,
Mm.
yeah. For me, it's just yeah, helping as many families as I can because Yeah, we're missing something at the moment. The connection is definitely gone in our society, and
Mm.
yeah, I'd love to be able to bring that back.
Yeah, I feel you in that. And so tell me a little bit about how you see the presence has improved your relationship with your daughters. Like, how have you seen that evolve in terms of where it was to where it is now, and the time, how you were spending time differently, and that how what you're integrating into your workshop spaces with family that you were seeing impactful.
Yeah. Um, so the difference is we actually have fun together now, whereas previously, because I wasn't present, it actually felt like a chore to play with my kids, and
Mm.
I was constantly thinking of the next thing I had to be doing, and I felt like a really crap parent, to be honest. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Um, and the big changes I've made is what I'm bringing into my workshops. And there's a lot around breath work, gratitude. Gratitude is massive.
Mm.
Um, and then communication. And then I invented a word called understanding,
I love
which
it.
is just understanding, but doing it in a fun way.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, they're really fun workshops. It takes people out of their comfort zone, but it also brings them together as a family and rebuilds trust and helps them communicate consciously.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really beautiful. And so, in terms of what you may be doing differently to other sort of workshops, because I know, I mean, there's parenting programs and things like that out there, but I don't think I've actually heard of anyone sort of doing these sort of family workshops in a way that you are. So, yeah, what would you say that distinguishes you from others who may be in these spaces that you may have seen that maybe I haven't, but
yeah. I think mine comes from lived experience rather
mm,
than clinical psychology, like
mm.
psychology. It's lived experience, and actually, I'm running them with my youngest daughter as well. So that's a mix up. So,
Oh,
um,
wow, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So she's been running them with me. Well, I think she runs them. I'm just there to help her out. That's the way she sees it. But
That's such a beautiful thing. I didn't know that. So that's the point of difference. I really love that. It's really beautiful. Mm.
yeah, and I'm hoping in time I'll get my eldest daughter on board as well. I think she wants to. She's just not comfortable enough yet, but
Mm.
we're working on that. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, I can leave a legacy that they can, carry on doing this. So the connection keeps happening well after I'm gone, and so on and so on.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. It's the ripple effect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, amazing. And in terms of, how you're working with families, so if you're working with, I mean, obviously you've been through your own separation and divorce yourself, and you're not just working with families who are together, you're working with families who are also moving through that space as well, and how you may support them to reconnect with children in the space.
100%. Yeah, so I've just made contact with someone who she's been through a really rough separation. And so what we're going to do is, I guess, rebuild how their family structure looks like because they're going from obviously having, a mum and a dad, even though it wasn't a great environment,
Hmm.
to a single mum. And
Mm.
so they need to set up some new structures and have some new plans and rituals moving forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm happy to work with anyone that wants to reconnect with their kids, whether it's a single person or a family,
Mm.
a typical family,
Yeah,
I
and I think
guess.
that's really powerful because I know, I mean, you've been through it, I've been through it, and many people have been through it. Like there's such a shake up to the family dynamic and having to find your foundations. And that can take some time for a lot of people because when you're in the thick of it, your capacity to focus on those things is not necessarily there. And I think I've spoken to it in Cycle Break as well, how it can take your parenting capacities can be impacted for 2 years plus post separation just because of the
Yeah,
impacts on your own nervous system in that space and having to rebuild foundations. So there's definitely a period of time where people do need support to recreate or, or some cases co-create. Like in your case, you're still friends with your former wife and you do have that ongoing sort of family or new family structure, but some people can't have that for obvious reasons. And
exactly.
We need to recognize that. But either way, you can still build the new form of your family and what that looks like for
Exactly
you
right.
and that support to family. And that's just really amazing to have someone like yourself working in that space to support people in that next step. I always like to see myself as as sort of more of a hub. I do this work and then I span people out to other spaces to continue, what they're wanting to create. They get clarity as to what they want to create with me, and then, there's other supports to help them bring it into to reality for them. So yeah, I think that's really beautiful that you have that space and to be providing that support. I know that you're currently focusing, on in-person support. Is there any intention or possibility of online support moving forward for families who may not be able to access you?
Yeah, there's definitely an intention to get something happening online.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's a new venture for me.
Mm.
I've had a couple of events already go really well,
Yeah,
which is
amazing.
good. But yeah, so I want to get that locked down, but then I'll definitely run into the online space and see what I can come up with for that. It's already in
Yeah,
the back of the mind.
amazing. And yeah, so what is the name of your venture? I don't think you've actually spelt it out.
No, I haven't. No, so it's called Hugs Over Handshakes.
Hugs
That's
Over
the
Handshakes.
business name.
Yes,
And the program I'm running at the moment is called Time Together.
amazing. Yeah, very, very beautiful. And if people are wanting to connect with you, how can they do that?
At the moment, probably Facebook is the best bet. Just find Tim Morris, but I have got nearly got a Facebook page up and running, and I have a website in development. So, and that'll be Hugs Over Handshakes.
Amazing, amazing. Certainly we can, yeah, I'll get those links up and running for you. And now before we head off, Tim, have you got I always like to ask people what tips do you have? What's your number one tips for people moving through separation, divorce, and I suppose those life restructures.
Take a breath before you react to anything, and try and see things from the other person's perspective.
Mm,
100%. Like, yeah, look at where you're at fault. Like we spoke about, is
yeah.
they're just so key. And have honest conversations and be willing to hear the other person's honesty and not react to it
Mm,
instantly.
yeah. Amazing. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Some great tips there, and I totally agree. Although it's easier said than done sometimes, but we're all human beings, so
Yes.
having like a passion and grace for ourselves as we're learning these new ways of relating is also incredibly important, from my perspective as well. So, with that said, thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate you jumping on here. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what evolves from your business and being able to, provide another space for families when they're moving through this process to, you know, create what they're looking to create in the next chapter of their life in their thriving
Sure.
divorce, as
Thanks,
I call
Cara.
it. Thriving divorce.
That's it.
All
Now, thanks
right.
heaps.
Thank you.